Hi there, it's Paulie here. So, I've recently just had to cut all ties with a fandom that was very meaningful to me, furry fandom, which I honestly was one of the people who kind of helped set it up back in the way back when. Why was I part of this fandom? Well, once upon a time, it was truly something magical, absolutely magical, and very, very closely aligned to the magic of the role-playing community. And this comes around to the role-playing community. Bear with me. So, way back in the early 80s, I was designing my first role-playing game and trying to do a kind of very simulationist science fiction system, and it was a cool system. We were having a good time with it, but I encountered the Albedo comics by Stephen Galacci, and these things just lit up my world. It was a hard science fiction comic, great stories, but they were told with intelligent animal characters, which all fitted into like the science fiction scenario. But they were just beautiful. Now, I had always loved things like Disney's Robin Hood, and I talked with the creator and ended up basing my game in his setting, and we became very good friends. And then I went over to Gen Con, met up with the creator, we had a fantastic time, and he just introduced me to all of these other kind of underground cartoonists and comic artists and animators and this whole community of people. But within there was particularly a community of people who loved the funny animal genre. Bugs Bunny, Disney's Robin Hood, all this sort of thing. And these people were just spectacularly funny and really kind of hyper creative. A fandom arose as we started getting together. Just, you'd come over for other conventions like Gen Con and Worldcon and so on. And San Diego Comic Con, I'd come over as a guest of that because I had quite a few kind of world number one games for computer games and so on. So, just this amazing group began. Now, the thing about it was everyone involved was a creator. There were a lot of animators, a lot of children's book writers. There was me. I was kind of the flagship game designer, but there were lots of game people, RPG people, and so on. Sculptors, painters, dancers, costume makers. Tons and tons and tons of sort of film and animation people and all these sorts of things. A fantastic group. So you turn up and you're just so excited to see what everyone's up to because everyone was creating stuff which they were just kind of pushing out there so that they would kind of create joy in the group. So you wanted to create things to kind of give back because everyone had given you joy. You just wanted to do things for them. Now, ordinary everyday fans who weren't like big name animators or whatever, many of them went on and became quite successful fan artists and so on, or fan writers. But what would happen is everyone created stuff to kind of give to people, even on a relatively small scale. So you'd go to a convention, everyone carry these sketchbooks and so forth, and you'd hand them round to people, and everyone would draw pictures in other people's books, or write bits of story in other people's books, or even write little game scenarios, or design a dungeon. So there's like tons of my stuff out there where I've done an ongoing story that every time I met someone, I'd do the next bit of the story in their books, and everyone did this as part of a way of kind of giving into the community. It was a shared creative endeavor. What would you call a shared creative investment community where everybody created because other people were creating. You just wanted to give back. Well, that fandom mutated. It mutated over the years. Now, fandoms they grow. However, the actual central core character of that fandom has completely shifted and gone. The creators of essentially vanished because what arose as a culture of essentially narcissistic costume wearers. These are not people who make costumes, they purchase them. And this is where it starts to sound a little bit like a game of on guard. These guys are gathering status as essentially kind of online influencers. Status is gained essentially by owning, not creating, but by owning things like fursuits that are made by highly ranked creators. A lot of these people can only do a few a year, so if you've got one from one of the really good ones, that's high status. um, and as online influencers gathering cliques of toadies about them. That gives people more and more power. Now, these online influencers sorts gain power through demonstration of power. One way of demonstrating power is punching down. If you can attack people and get away with it, that's a demonstration of power, and that brings in more toadies, more following, yay, more ridiculous dreams of whatever the fuck these people are on about as far as supremacy goes. Now, I was still attached into the fandom, still operating under the old rules, still trying to create and give back. So, still doing stories and still, making artwork, but also I started running conventions and getting involved with organising events and so forth as a way of, again, I'm still trying to give into a community that I still kind of was a knee-jerk, I've got to give into the community because it gives back. No, it had stopped giving back long, long ago. All the creators were gone, except for those who served the purposes of the cliques by essentially they can be hired to do artwork or create things, which increase your status. So an isolated older trans person goes from respected creator to potential isolated target to punch down on. And being trans means you're very, very visible and an easy target. This is entirely Trumpian, entirely a right-wing tactic. And all of these online influencers are basically right-wing. Because essentially everyone around them is a victim for their own self-aggrandizement. So I came under an awful lot of anti-trans attacks from a lot of these people. And no, I don't play that game. I'm old and I'm extremely well respected in numerous circles. I don't need to hang around in one where some moron is going to try and see me as, leverage to get themselves yet more clicks and likes. So, sod off, taking my bat and ball and leaving. I am a professional entertainer and I've been wasting my time doing things to support a group of people who were not worth it, because in the end, the lower ranked fans would not dare speak out and support me because that ruins their chance of climbing their way up higher into one of these cliques. And no, don't play that game. Off I go. Which brings us around to the role-playing game community. The role-playing game community, I think, is worth staying in and is worth fighting for, because at its core it has the same hyper-creativity. Every single gamer, every single player is creating and giving in to a communal creative endeavour. Every single games master that designs scenarios and runs a game, they are giving to their friends creatively. But those friends are investing in making characters and investing in the mutual story that you're all telling. They're giving back. It's that same wonderful creativity going back and forth. And in a larger arena, in the online pages and so on, we are all essentially creating and giving to each other. Everyone is talking about nuances of games. Here's the house rules I'm doing. I'm thinking of doing this. Here's this artwork I've done. Here's this cool story about this game that I played that made me laugh. I hope it'll make you laugh too. It's that same wonderful level of engagement. And there are tons of small press folk like me, and we do stuff which will never make a buck. We'll spend far more in artwork and layout and everything than this thing could ever hope to make on drive-through. But we're putting it out because we just want to put something out into the community, because the community has given us so much and we see other people making cool stuff. So we want to put cool stuff out there as well and give back. It's that same creative to and fro. Those people who have reputations as good creators and good folk have earned it from what they do and what they make. And the respect or whatever that they get does come from the fact that they are essentially good people. And, they're actively engaged in doing stuff to make everyone else happy. So there have been some toxic actors appear in the role-playing community, but the vital difference between the role-playing and gaming community to, say, some of these fan communities such as furry fandom is that they're recognized as toxic and seen for what they are, because that creativity, that to and fro, that hyper creativity that's going back and forth requires diversity and requires kind of acceptance, and it requires a population of people who are engaged in creating rather than shutting out and punching down and limiting. So the toxic voices that we've seen are called out very quickly, and they are very clearly working at cross purposes to the actual creative drive of the community. So I see people working to shut these toxic people down and throw those voices out, because they are essentially an anathema to the actual hobby itself. So that's why I think it's worth staying around and it's worth fighting for, and I think we'll win, because that creative core is the essence of gaming. We will always, as a part of the hobby that we do, be engaging in making scenarios, making characters, making stories, making funny quips around the table. Every wargamer that sets up a miniatures campaign for their friends is giving into their community, and every person that leaps in to engage in that campaign and excuse me, umpire, can I just tell you about my evil scheme I want to do, they are helping tell that story. So yeah, in short, it's a creative engagement that I think is both beautiful and worth preserving, and has strong enough bones to survive the assholes. One thing I have seen, and I would like to point it out, is I have seen a few YouTube and online creators trying to engage in exactly what I've seen in furry fandom, and turn their YouTube experience into essentially naming names and punching down and laughing at people. Now, there are some toxic actors who probably deserve punching in the head, not punching down onto, but drag people for the bad things they do. Don't invent more stuff, or don't just laugh at them for existing. Their existence might be horrible, but let's be adults. And if this person puts out a horrible game or tries stealing IP, or all these other things that we've seen lately, by all means drag them for it. But getting into personality wars, and I've seen some creators start putting things out where they are putting out kind of personal attack videos against people and so on. It says, don't do it. Do you want to see where that leads to? Go and check out furry fandom. You don't want to take that train ride, honey. So anyway, keep making stuff for each other. Keep engaging in the games. Always be the best possible ambassador you can for the games community. Cheers, everyone. Miniatures gamers, tabletop gamers, role-playing gamers. Love you all. My people forever. Cheers, everyone.